When it comes to men's health after 60, there's one topic that is both private and deeply unsettling: masturbation. For decades, countless men have silently asked themselves, is this destroying my testosterone? Is it making me weaker or even cutting years off my life? It's a fear that rarely gets spoken aloud, yet it weighs heavily on many shoulders. Before we go deeper, let me ask you, where are you watching this from? I love knowing that men from all around the world, from New York and London to the smallest towns, are here searching for the truth about their own bodies. If you care about your health, your vitality, and your confidence as you age, make sure to hit that subscribe button today, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see yourself. And don't leave just yet. At the very end of this video, I'll share the most important secret, the one most men in their 60s and 70s wish they had learned decades earlier. Now let's begin this journey together and uncover the truth behind the myths of masturbation and aging. All right, let's begin with the first concern nearly every man raises when it comes to masturbation after 60: testosterone. The question is always the same. Doctor, am I draining my testosterone every time I do this? It is such a common fear that it deserves our full attention. Here's the truth. Testosterone is a hormone made mainly in the testes, and it naturally rises and falls throughout the day. After age 30, levels decline slowly, usually about 1% each year. That decline is driven by age, genetics, body fat, sleep quality, and overall health, not by masturbation. Research from the National Institutes of Health and multiple clinical studies shows the same pattern. Masturbation causes small temporary shifts in testosterone, but it does not lead to long-term loss. Think about it like this. If you skip one workout, you may feel weaker that day, but you don't lose your strength forever. The body bounces back. In the same way, ejaculation does not erase your testosterone. Your hormones are carefully balanced like a thermostat, not fragile glass. That means your body adjusts, protects itself, and maintains what it needs. So why does this myth survive? Because men often confuse natural aging with the effects of masturbation. Around this age, energy drops, muscles shrink, and libido shifts. It's easy to blame the habit, but the real culprits are often poor sleep, excess weight, stress, alcohol, or medication. Harvard and Mayo Clinic both confirm this. Masturbation is not on the list of causes for low testosterone. Here's something powerful to remember. Sleep has a far greater impact. One study from the University of Chicago found that just 1 week of poor sleep, less than 5 hours a night, reduced testosterone by 15%. Compare that to the tiny, short-lived changes after masturbation, and you see the difference. It's not release that weakens you, it's lifestyle. So if you've been carrying guilt, it's time to let it go. Masturbation is not stealing your masculinity. It is simply a small part of the bigger hormonal picture. Focus instead on what truly matters: sleeping well, exercising, keeping stress down, and eating a healthy diet. Those habits guard your testosterone far more than abstaining ever could. Let's pause here and reflect. How many of you have worried about this in silence? If that's you, type the number 1 in the comments. Because you are not alone, and it's important to see just how many men share this same concern. There's another layer we should address. Testosterone is not just about muscles or sex drive. It also affects mood, bone strength, red blood cell production, and motivation. That's why it is essential to monitor your health as a whole. If you feel exhausted, if you notice muscle fading, or if your desire has dropped, get your levels checked. But understand this: the solution is rarely to stop masturbating. It's more likely to involve better sleep, balanced nutrition, and if necessary, medical therapy. Now imagine this picture. Your body is a machine running every day with many moving parts. Testosterone is just one gear. Masturbation does not break that gear. But poor maintenance, stress, neglecting, sleep, skipping exercise can slow the entire engine. Your goal is not to fear one habit, but to keep the whole system tuned. Here's a practical tip you can start with today. Protect your testosterone by creating a sleep ritual. Go to bed at the same time, dim the lights, avoid screens before bed, and aim for at least 7 hours. That one change can restore more energy, focus, and libido than any worry about release. So let's close this first part with clarity. Masturbation does not drain testosterone. It does not make you weaker or speed up aging. Your body is stronger, smarter, and more resilient than the myths suggest. Hold on to that truth. Now let's move forward, because once testosterone is off the table, the next question almost every man asks is about the prostate. Could masturbation enlarge it, damage it, or protect it? The answer may surprise you. When men reach their 50s, 60s, and beyond, the prostate becomes a central concern. This small gland, about the size of a walnut, sits just below the bladder. Its main job is to produce the fluid that nourishes and protects sperm. And because it's directly involved in ejaculation, men often assume that masturbation must either wear it out or somehow make it unhealthy. You've probably heard both extremes. Some say too much release enlarges the prostate or even leads to cancer. Others swear it's like a cleansing ritual that protects the gland. The truth, as always, lies in the research. One of the most powerful studies comes from Harvard, published in European Urology. Nearly 30,000 men were followed for close to 20 years. The results were clear. Men who ejaculated more frequently, around 21 times per month, had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times. That's not a small difference. It's significant. Why might this be? Scientists have theories. One idea is that ejaculation helps clear the prostate of harmful substances or inflammation. Another possibility is that frequent sexual activity simply reflects better overall health and lifestyle. In either case, the evidence does not support the myth that masturbation damages the prostate. If anything, the opposite appears more likely. Think of the prostate like a sponge. If it never gets squeezed, fluid can build up and stagnate. Ejaculation, whether through sex or masturbation, is the natural way that sponge is cleared. Of course, it's not the only factor in prostate health, but it plays its part. Now let's talk about benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. This is the non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate that causes many older men to wake at night, struggle to urinate, or feel incomplete emptying of the bladder. Here the science is less direct. Masturbation itself doesn't cause BPH, nor does it cure it. But some men report temporary relief after ejaculation because the gland relaxes once fluid is released. That relief may last a few hours, but it is not permanent. The real drivers of prostate health are bigger picture factors. Age, genetics, body weight, diet, and hormones all play stronger roles than whether you masturbate twice a week or 10 times a month. Still, there is comfort in knowing that masturbation is not harmful. It's not something that wears out the gland. Here's a practical step for men over 50. Ask your doctor about regular screenings. 2 tools matter most: PSA testing, prostate-specific antigen, and the digital rectal exam. They're not glamorous, but they save lives. Combine those screenings with lifestyle habits like maintaining a healthy weight, staying physically active, and eating a diet rich in vegetables and omega-3 fats. Those actions have a far greater impact on your prostate than abstinence ever could. Let's pause here. How many of you have worried about your prostate but never talked about it with your doctor? If that's you, drop the word prostate in the comments. You'll see just how many men are carrying the same silent concerns. The takeaway is simple. Masturbation is not a danger to your prostate. In fact, regular release may support long-term health. But more important than how often you ejaculate is how well you care for yourself. Be vigilant. Know your family history. Get checked. And never let shame keep you from speaking honestly about this part of your health. So where do we go from here? Once men feel reassured about testosterone and the prostate, another fear quickly rises to the surface: erections. Many wonder, is masturbation making me weaker in bed? In the next part, we'll look closely at what really affects erection strength and what role, if any, masturbation plays in that process. Now let's tackle one of the most common fears men over 60 carry in silence: erections. Many ask me, "Doctor, I think masturbation is making my erections weaker." Is that true? It's an understandable worry, especially as changes naturally occur with age. Testosterone gradually declines, blood vessels stiffen, and nerves lose some sensitivity. Add myths from the internet, and it's easy to point the finger at masturbation. But let's look at the science. Erections are not like a light switch you flip on and off. They are the result of a finely tuned system involving blood flow, nerve signals, and muscle support. And one of the most overlooked yet crucial parts of this system is the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a network of muscles stretching from the pubic bone to the tailbone. They support the bladder bowel and prostate, but they also have a direct role in erection and ejaculation. When strong, they help trap blood inside the penis, keeping it firm. When weak, erections fade faster and rigidity decreases. Here's the key point. Masturbation itself does not weaken erections. In fact, in many ways, it's a form of use it or lose it training. Just as lifting weights keeps muscles strong, regular erections and ejaculation keep penile tissue oxygenated and flexible. Research published in BJU International confirms that men who remain sexually active, including through masturbation, maintain better erectile function compared to those who become inactive. So why do some men struggle? The answer often lies in technique. For example, using a very tight grip or being overly aggressive during masturbation can condition the body to respond only to that specific kind of stimulation. This doesn't damage the penis, but it trains the brain and nerves to expect only one pattern. Partnered intimacy may then feel less satisfying because the body has adapted. Think of it like only training one muscle in the gym and ignoring the rest. The good news is this can be retrained. Vary your approach. Slow down. Focus on sensation rather than speed. Over time, the brain adapts, sensitivity improves, and intimacy with a partner feels natural again. Another critical piece of the puzzle is pelvic floor training. Many think Kegel exercises are just for women after childbirth. But research in the British Journal of Urology shows that pelvic floor strengthening can significantly improve erectile function in men, especially those with mild to moderate dysfunction. The exercise is simple. Contract the same muscles you would use to stop urine midstream, hold for a few seconds, then release. Do this 10 to 15 times, 3 times a day. It's discreet, free, and can make a real difference over time. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever tried pelvic floor exercises? If yes, type yes in the comments. If not, maybe today is the day to begin. So here's the takeaway. Erections change with age. That's normal. But masturbation is not the cause. Instead, focus on your cardiovascular health, your muscle strength, and your daily habits. These are the true factors that determine erectile quality. If changes occur, see them as signals to take care of your body, not reasons to blame a natural act. Here's one simple routine to adopt. Along with your daily walk or workout, add pelvic floor training. Within weeks, many men notice stronger rigidity and improved control. Combined with healthy sleep and good nutrition, it creates a powerful foundation for sexual health. So rather than fearing that masturbation weakens you, think of it as one more way to keep your sexual system alive and active, as long as you remain mindful of technique, balance, and overall health. Now that we've addressed erections, let's move to another overlooked aspect, the brain. Because while men often focus on the physical side, testosterone, prostate, erections, the truth is masturbation has profound effects on stress, mood, and even sleep. That's what we'll explore next. When most men think about masturbation, they focus only on the body, testosterone, the prostate, erections. But just as important, sometimes even more important, is what happens in the brain. Because every orgasm is not just physical, it's also neurological, a chemical event that reshapes how you feel in the minutes and hours afterward. Here's what science shows. When a man is aroused and reaches climax, the brain releases a flood of neurotransmitters. Dopamine, the reward chemical, surges and creates that wave of pleasure and satisfaction. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, rises as well. Even when there's no partner involved, it can leave you feeling calmer and more connected. Prolactin is released too, which explains why so many men feel relaxed or sleepy after climax. And let's not forget endorphins. These natural pain relievers can ease headaches, muscle tension, even lingering stress. The impact is real. Studies from the National Institutes of Health have found that orgasm, whether through sex or masturbation, lowers cortisol, the main stress hormone. Lower cortisol means lower blood pressure, less inflammation, and a calmer nervous system. That's why many older men notice they fall asleep more easily after release. It's not in their heads, it's chemistry. But here's where balance matters. Like any activity that stimulates the brain's reward system, masturbation can be used wisely or overused. Occasional release to relax is perfectly healthy, but when it becomes the only way you cope with loneliness, boredom or stress problems can follow. Think of dopamine like currency in the brain. Spend it wisely and you feel energized, motivated, and rewarded. Overspend it day after day and the brain becomes less sensitive. Suddenly you need more stimulation just to feel the same effect. That's why moderation is key, especially as dopamine sensitivity naturally declines with age. Let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine masturbation like a glass of wine. For many, a glass at the end of the day is relaxing, but if it turns into a nightly bottle, the brain begins to depend on it, and other healthy coping tools, exercise, conversation, hobbies fade into the background. The same is true here. Oh. So how do you keep the balance? Use masturbation as one tool, not the only tool for stress and sleep. Pair it with deep breathing, light, stretching, or meditation before bed. That way your brain learns to spread out its sources of calm rather than leaning on just one. Let's pause here. Have you ever noticed you sleep better after release? If that's true for you, type the word sleep in the comments. You'll see just how many men share that experience. One more point deserves attention. Sometimes men feel drained, irritable, or disconnected after climax instead of relaxed. That's not proof that masturbation is harmful. It's simply a sign that frequency, timing, or mindset may need adjusting. Pay attention to your body's signals. If release leaves you calm and restored, your brain chemistry is working in harmony. If not, try varying the timing, slowing down the process, or combining it with other stress relief strategies. Here's a tip to experiment with tonight. Before bed, spend 10 minutes in quiet breathing or gentle stretching. Then if you choose to release, notice whether you feel more settled afterward. Over time, this habit can balance your brain's reward system and protect long-term mental health. The bottom line is this: masturbation is not just about the body, it's about the mind too. It can reduce stress, improve sleep, and bring calm. But it works best in moderation when paired with other healthy practices and when done with awareness. Now that we've looked at the benefits and balance, we also need to face the harder truth. For some men, especially in later years, masturbation can tip into excess, not because the act itself is harmful, but because of how it fits or doesn't fit into a healthy life. That's what we'll examine next. Up to this point, we've looked at the benefits and neutral effects of masturbation, but we also need to be honest. For a small percentage of men, especially as they age, masturbation can become unbalanced. It's not the act itself that causes harm, but the frequency, the patterns, or the way it replaces other forms of intimacy and self-care. Here's what the research shows. The American Neurological Association and mental health studies agree that compulsive sexual behavior is not about a specific number of times per week. It's defined by impact. If masturbation interferes with work relationships, energy, or emotional health, it may be tipping into harmful territory. Think of it like food. Eating is essential, but eating for comfort in ways that damage your health. Constant overeating, for example, creates problems. Masturbation works the same way. It becomes an issue not because of the act, but because of its role in your life. One concern is reliance. Some men turn to masturbation as their primary tool to cope with stress, loneliness, or frustration. Over time, this can create a cycle where the brain depends only on sexual stimulation for relief while ignoring healthier outlets like exercise, conversation, hobbies, or intimacy with a partner. There's also what's called death grip syndrome. This happens when a man conditions himself to very tight or specific stimulation. Later partnered sex may feel less satisfying, not because the penis is damaged, but because the nervous system has adapted to one narrow pattern. The good news: this is reversible. By slowing down, using gentler techniques, and allowing arousal to build naturally, the body and brain can be retrained. Addiction is rare but real. The World Health Organization recognizes compulsive sexual behavior disorder when it significantly impairs life. It's estimated that 3 to 6% of the population may struggle with it. For older men, though, the risks are usually less about compulsion and more about avoidance. Avoiding intimacy with a partner, avoiding emotional vulnerability, avoiding deeper health issues by retreating into private release. So what's the takeaway? Masturbation is healthy when balanced. It becomes harmful when it replaces, connection interferes with daily responsibilities or feels out of control. If you notice those patterns, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a signal to seek support. Urologists, therapists, and sexual health specialists see this every day. And the good news is that it's treatable through strategies, counseling, and sometimes medication. Here's a practical self-check. Ask yourself, am I choosing this or am I escaping into it? If it feels like escape most of the time, it may be worth adjusting your habits. Balance, not abstinence, is the goal. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever felt that your habits were more about escape than choice? If so, type the word balance in the comments, because that awareness is the first step to change. Remember this, for the vast majority of men, masturbation is harmless. For those who struggle, help exists. No man needs to carry that weight alone. Now this leads to the final question almost every man asks. How often is too often? Is there a number that defines healthy or unhealthy? Let's explore that next. By now you've heard the science. Masturbation doesn't drain testosterone. It doesn't damage the prostate. It doesn't weaken erections. In fact, it can support relaxation and even better sleep. But this leaves one big question that almost every man eventually asks. Doctor, how often is too often? Here's the truth. There is no universal number. Some men in their 60s feel satisfied with once a week. Others enjoy several times per week and remain perfectly healthy. What matters is not the number but the impact on your overall life. Do you feel energized, balanced, and connected afterward? Or do you feel fatigued, compulsive, and disconnected? That difference tells you more than any statistic. Still, medical studies give us some perspective. Population research suggests that men who ejaculate between 4 and 7 times per week often fall within a healthy average range. But again, this is not a prescription. It's simply an observed pattern. Your healthy range depends on your body, your needs, and your lifestyle. Think of it like exercise. One man may thrive walking 30 minutes a day. Another may feel his best lifting weights 5 times a week. Both are healthy but tailored to the individual. The principle is the same here. Here's how to keep yourself on track. After release, ask 3 simple questions. 1, do I feel physically better? 2, do I feel emotionally better? 3, did this interfere with something important? If the first 2 answers are yes and the third is no, you're likely in a healthy range. Let's pause. Have you ever wondered if your frequency was normal? If so, type the number 2 in the comments. You'll quickly see that many other men share the same question. Now let's talk about habits. Masturbation should be intentional, not rushed. Find a comfortable private setting. Allow arousal to build naturally. This not only improves the experience, but also conditions your nervous system in healthier ways. If you're in a relationship, balance solo activity with intimacy. Masturbation should not replace connection. If you notice yourself choosing solo release consistently because it feels easier or more predictable, it may be time to address underlying issues. Pelvic floor training, honest communication, or even counseling can make partnered intimacy stronger again. Also, avoid using masturbation as your only stress relief tool. Pair it with exercise, breathing exercises, hobbies, or social connection. This prevents over-reliance and protects your brain's reward system. For men with prostate concerns, moderate ejaculation is safe, and in some studies even protective. But remember, it doesn't replace medical care. Routine checkups and screenings after 50 are essential. Here's a practical tip you can start today. Set boundaries for yourself. Decide when masturbation fits into your routine and when it shouldn't. Keep it balanced. And always check in with how your body and mind respond. So let's be clear. Masturbation is not a test of masculinity or morality. It's simply one part of sexual health, just like nutrition, sleep, and exercise. When placed in context, it loses its stigma and becomes just another part of a balanced routine. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, let's pull everything together, because the bigger picture is even more powerful than the individual myths we've just broken. We began this journey with a question so many men carry quietly. Is masturbation hurting me as I get older? Now, after looking at the science, the myths, and the reality, we can finally give a clear answer. Masturbation is not the enemy of men's health. Here's what we know. It does not drain testosterone, though hormones do change naturally with age. It does not damage the prostate. In fact, large Harvard studies show that frequent ejaculation is linked to a reduced risk of prostate cancer. It does not weaken erections. Erections are shaped by blood flow, pelvic floor strength, and lifestyle, not by whether or not you touch yourself. And in the brain, masturbation can calm, stress release tension, and even improve sleep. But we've also seen the nuance. Masturbation is not a cure-all. If it becomes excessive compulsive or your only way of coping, it can tip into imbalance. Like any habit, it works best when practiced with moderation and intention and alongside other healthy routines. So what's the real takeaway? Masturbation is simply one piece of the bigger puzzle of sexual health. It can be neutral, it can be beneficial, it can sometimes become problematic, but it should never be something you fear, and it should never be something you feel ashamed of. Shame and secrecy do far more damage to men's health than masturbation ever could. Here's one action you can take today. Begin looking at your sexual health with the same care you give to your diet, your sleep, and your exercise. Ask yourself, does this make me feel stronger, more relaxed, more connected? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. If not, know that adjustments are possible and support is always available. Remember, your body is not your enemy. It's your partner. It needs good information, not fear. And now you have that clarity. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay kind to yourself. If this video has been helpful, subscribe to the channel for more clear science-based health content designed for men like you, content that replaces myths with truth and fear with confidence. Because your health deserves nothing less. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.